Ethan had lived alone for almost a year, and he had gotten used to the quiet. It wasn't the peaceful kind, not really. It was the kind of quiet that lets you hear everything. The refrigerator breathing in the kitchen, the walls settling at night, the faint hum of electricity. At first, it bothered him, but over time, he learned it. Because when you live alone long enough, you begin to understand your house. You know which sounds belong and which ones don't. That night started like any other. Nothing unusual, nothing wrong. Ethan sat on the couch, the soft glow of his phone lighting his face. Outside, the street was empty. Still, the kind of night where even the air feels quiet. He went to bed just after midnight, turned off the lights, closed the door. Darkness filled the room, and slowly, the house settled around him. Everything felt normal, until it didn't. Ethan woke up suddenly. No sound, no dream, just awake. The room felt different, like something had changed. He didn't move, just stared into the dark. Then slowly, he turned his head toward the door. And that's when he saw it. A thin line of light under the door. Soft, pale, not bright, but clear. Ethan frowned slightly. That didn't make sense. He had turned off every light. The living room, the kitchen, the hallway, everything. He sat up slowly. The bed creaked softly. The light didn't move, didn't flicker. It just stayed there. A quiet line under the door. Ethan swung his legs off the bed. The floor felt colder than usual. He stood there, looking, listening. The house was silent. Too silent. He walked toward the door, each step slow, careful. The light remained steady. He stopped just inches away. His hand hovered near the handle. And then, he heard something from the other side. Not a voice, not a step. A soft movement, like something shifting, right outside his room. Ethan froze. His hand dropped slowly. The light under the door flickered once, then steadied again. "Hello?" His voice felt small. The house didn't respond. Silence. Then, something moved again. Closer this time. Right up against the door. Ethan could feel it. Not hear it clearly, but feel it. Like presence, standing just on the other side. He took a step back. His chest tightened. This wasn't normal. This wasn't the house. The light under the door dimmed slightly. Then, something blocked it. A shadow, perfectly still, as if something was standing right outside, facing him. Ethan stopped breathing, because the shadow didn't move. It just stayed there, watching, waiting. Minutes passed, or maybe seconds. Time felt wrong. Then slowly, the shadow shifted, not away, closer, until the light disappeared completely. The door now was completely dark. Ethan stepped back again, his mind racing, his body cold. Then, the handle moved, just slightly. A soft click. Ethan's eyes widened. He stared at it. The handle turned slowly from the other side. And then, it stopped halfway, like something was holding it, thinking, deciding. Ethan didn't move, didn't speak, because in that moment, he realized something that made his chest go tight. The light was not coming from the hallway. It had been coming from inside his room. And whatever was outside was now standing in the dark, trying to get in.
Ethan didn't move. The handle stayed halfway turned. The silence around him felt heavy, like the house was waiting, like something outside the door was listening. His breathing was shallow, careful. He stared at the handle, waiting for it to move again. But it didn't. Seconds passed, or maybe longer. Time felt stretched. Then slowly, the handle returned back to its original position. A soft click, and then nothing. Silence. Ethan let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. But the feeling didn't go away. It was still there, right outside. He took a step back, then another. His eyes never left the door, because something about it felt wrong now. Not just the light, the space, the air. Everything felt shifted, like the house wasn't the same. Ethan turned slowly. He looked behind him, at his room, and his chest tightened, because something had changed. The room looked darker, not just because the light was gone, but because the shadows felt deeper, thicker, like they had weight. He stepped further back, and then he noticed something small, but wrong. The window, the faint glow from outside. It wasn't there anymore. No streetlight, no moonlight, nothing, just darkness. No. The word slipped out quietly, because that wasn't possible. There was always light, always something, but now there was nothing, like the outside didn't exist. Ethan turned back to the door, slowly, carefully, and that's when it happened. The light returned. But not the same, not under the door. From the walls, a faint glow, soft, pale, but coming from inside the room. Ethan froze, because the light wasn't coming from any source. It was just there, spreading slowly across the walls, and then he saw it, his shadow on the wall. But it wasn't matching him. It was standing still while he was breathing, moving. Ethan's heart started racing because the shadow was not copying him. It turned, very slowly, facing the door, not him. The door, like it was watching something outside. Ethan stepped back, his body shaking slightly, and then the shadow moved, not with him. On its own, sliding across the wall toward the door. Stop. His voice broke slightly, but nothing stopped. The shadow reached the door, and then it bent, as if leaning closer toward the bottom of the door where the light had been. And then something answered from the other side. A shape, a shadow appearing under the door. But not like before. This one was darker, thicker, and it moved, matching the shadow inside the room, like they were the same, on opposite sides. Ethan couldn't move, couldn't think, because in that moment he understood something. The thing outside wasn't trying to get in. It was waiting for something to come out. The shadow on the wall, his shadow, slid closer to the door, and then it touched it. The moment it did, the handle moved again, slowly, but this time from both sides. Ethan stepped back. No. But it was too late. The door opened, not wide, just enough to reveal darkness. Not empty, not silent, but deep.
endless. And then, the shadow stepped forward, not on the wall, but off it, into the doorway, leaving Ethan standing alone, without it, without his shadow, without something that should have been part of him. The room grew colder. He looked down, and for the first time, there was no shadow beneath him. Nothing. The door slowly closed. The darkness disappeared. The light returned to normal. The window showed the outside again. Everything looked fine, normal, like nothing had happened. But Ethan knew something had changed, because now, when he stood in the light, there was no shadow. And at night, sometimes when the room gets quiet, he sees something on the wall not attached to him, moving, watching, waiting for the door to open again.
Story 2. Arav never liked silence. Not real silence. The kind that feels empty. Because silence to him always felt like something was missing, or worse, like something was waiting. He had moved into the apartment just 2 weeks ago. A small place, 3rd floor, old building, cheap rent, quiet neighborhood. It felt perfect, at least during the day. At night, it felt different. The walls seemed thinner, the shadows longer, and the silence deeper. Arav sat on his bed, phone in hand, scrolling slowly. The clock on the screen read 2:58 a.m. He should have been asleep, but something kept him awake. Not a sound, not a thought, just a feeling. Like the room wasn't empty. He locked his phone. The screen went dark, and for a moment everything was still. Then, a sound. Very soft. So soft he almost missed it. A faint tap from above. Arav frowned slightly, looked up at the ceiling. Nothing. The ceiling was plain, white, still. He waited. Another tap. Then silence. Probably the upstairs neighbor, he whispered. That made sense. Buildings make noise. People move. Normal. He lay back down, closed his eyes, and waited for sleep. But it didn't come, because something about the sound didn't feel right. It wasn't random. It wasn't careless. It felt measured. Tap. Arav's eyes opened again. Tap. 2 times now. He sat up slowly, listening. Nothing. Then, tap, tap, tap. 3 in a row, evenly spaced. His chest tightened slightly, because that didn't sound like footsteps. It sounded like knocking from above. Arav stood up, walked to the center of the room, looked up. The ceiling stared back at him. Still, silent. Hello? His voice felt small. No answer, only silence. Then, tap. Right above him. He froze, because this time, it was closer, more direct, like something knew where he was standing. He stepped to the side. The room creaked softly beneath his movement. Silence. Then, tap. Above him again. Exactly above him. His heart started beating faster because now it wasn't random. It was following him. He moved again, 1 step back. Tap. Again, matching him perfectly. Like something was tracking him. From the ceiling, Arav stopped moving. The tapping stopped. Silence filled the room. Heavy. He didn't breathe, didn't move. Then slowly, he looked toward the door. Maybe he should leave. Maybe he should check upstairs.
but something inside him said, "Don't go up there." Tap, right above his head. But this time, it wasn't just a tap. It dragged, a slow, scraping sound moving across the ceiling, following him, even though he wasn't moving. His chest tightened, his body felt cold, because the sound was no longer pretending to be something else. It was crawling above him. Arav stepped back slowly. The scraping followed, right above him, keeping pace. Then suddenly, it stopped, right at the center of the room, above where he had been standing. Silence. Then, a soft pressure, a faint dent formed in the ceiling. Arav's eyes widened because something was pressing down from the other side. Not breaking through, just leaning, like it was trying to get closer to him, to see him. He stepped back quickly. The dent disappeared. The ceiling returned to normal. But then, tap. This time behind him. Arav turned slowly. The sound had moved, fast, too fast, from one side of the ceiling to the other. And then, something worse. The tapping changed. It wasn't just above anymore. It was inside the walls. A faint knocking, moving, circling, getting closer. Tap, tap, tap. From the wall next to him. Arav stepped back again, his breathing uneven now, because whatever it was, wasn't above him anymore. It was moving through the house. And then, the final sound. A single knock from inside his room, right behind him, where nothing should be. Arav froze, because in that moment he realized something. There was no apartment above him. He lived on the top floor.
Arav didn't move. That last knock, it hadn't come from above. It hadn't come from the walls. It had come from inside his room, right behind him, where nothing should be. His breathing slowed, not because he was calm, but because he was trying not to make a sound. Slowly, very slowly, he turned his head. The room looked the same. The bed, the table, the wall. Nothing had changed, but the feeling was different, like the space behind him was no longer empty. Tap. Arav froze again. The sound came from the wall, right in front of him. But it wasn't loud, it was careful, like something didn't want to be heard clearly. Tap, tap. Two more, evenly spaced. His chest tightened, because now it wasn't random. It was repeating. A pattern. Tap, tap, tap. 3 knocks. Pause. Tap, tap. 2 knocks. Pause. Tap. 1. Arav's eyes widened, because he had heard that pattern before. Not tonight, but earlier, when it was above him. On the ceiling, it followed him down. He stepped back slowly. The room felt smaller now, closer, like the walls had moved in. Tap, right beside his ear, from inside the wall. Arav flinched because it was too close, too precise, like something knew exactly where he was. He backed toward the door, his hand reaching behind him, searching for the handle. But before he touched it, the tapping stopped. Complete silence. Heavy, waiting. Arav froze because the silence felt worse,
like something had changed again, like something had reached its destination. Then a sound. Not tapping, not knocking. A slow movement from inside the wall, like something shifting, turning, adjusting. And then the wall in front of him moved, just slightly. A faint bulge pressing outward, as if something was pushing from the inside. Arav stepped back, his breathing uneven, his mind racing. No. The word slipped out, but the wall didn't stop. It pushed again, harder this time. The paint stretched, the surface bending unnaturally. And then something pressed through. Not breaking, not tearing, just appearing. A shape from inside the wall. Like a hand, but wrong, too long, too thin. Arav stumbled backward, his body hitting the bed. The shape withdrew. The wall returned to normal, like nothing had happened. Silence again. Too quiet. Then, tap, right behind him. Arav turned quickly. The sound came from the door itself, not outside it, but inside it. Tap, tap, from within the wood, like something was trapped inside, trying to get out, or in. Arav's hand finally found the handle. He gripped it tightly, ready to open it, to run. But then, a voice, very faint, very close, from the other side of the door. Arav. He froze, because the voice sounded like his own. Arav, open it. His chest tightened, his grip loosened, because something inside him recognized that voice. It's quiet out here. Come out. The voice sounded calm, too calm. Arav shook his head. No, but his voice felt weak because something was wrong, very wrong. The tapping inside the door stopped. Silence again. Then slowly the handle moved, but not from his side, from the other side, turning against his grip. Arav held it tightly, his body shaking, because whatever was on the other side was holding it too. And then the wall behind him tapped again, once. He turned his head slightly. Then again, tap, closer. And again, tap, even closer. It wasn't in the wall anymore, it was behind him, in the room, somewhere he couldn't see. Arav's breathing broke, because now there were two things, one at the door and one inside. He let go of the handle, stepped away. The door stopped moving. The voice disappeared. Silence. He turned slowly. The room looked empty, normal. But he knew it wasn't, because something had come through. From the walls, from the ceiling, from somewhere. And then he saw it. His shadow on the floor. But it wasn't connected to him. It stood still while he was moving. It slowly lifted its head, looking at him, not copying him, watching him. Arav stepped back. His shadow didn't move. It just stood there, waiting. And then it took a step forward, on its own, toward him. The room went cold, the air heavy. Arav closed his eyes just for a second, but when he opened them again, the room was normal. The shadow was back, attached. Everything looked fine. Morning came. Light filled the room. Nothing was broken. Nothing was out of place. The ceiling was smooth. The walls were solid. The door was still. Everything looked normal. But now, Arav never turns off the lights, because when the room gets dark, he can still hear it. Very faint, very close. Tap, 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 from inside the walls. And sometimes when he stands still, he feels it, right above him, waiting for him to stop moving.